After 110 races, Lando Norris finally has his first Grand Prix win in Formula One. But what did it mean for F1 fantasy? Let's check it out. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. My name is Euan. On today's episode, we're going to get into the Miami Grand Prix review episode, where we're going to talk about that phenomenal race from a certain Brit. Yes, Lando Norris taking home the checkered flag, first time on top of the podium in 110 races. Great job by him. Kind of turned out to be a very exciting race, probably the best Miami race we've had among the first 3 years of this race. So a well-timed safety car kind of threw everything up in the air, and the McLaren, the Papaya gang, took advantage. Obviously, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you knew I was going to be repping the Papaya today in today's episode. But if you are watching on the YouTube channel, give me a like and subscribe. Would greatly appreciate that. And if you're listening on the podcast side, give me a 5-star rating, thumbs up, whatever you are listening on. Help me out a little bit there. Yeah, just plug this show and the channel a little bit. Would greatly appreciate any support, as we are 25% of the way through the F1 Fantasy 2024 season. So yeah, let's get right into it here with the Miami Grand Prix review. Some facts and stats from that race. So the optimal team in F1 Fantasy was Red Bull, Ferrari, Verstappen ×2, Tsunoda, Gasly, Hulkenberg, and Zhou Guan Yu. That was 111.1 million, about an average kind of budget. I'm actually below that in my T1 team, so I could not afford that. The optimal team obviously does not include the limitless chip, which we will get to in a little bit here. Positions gained, it was Zhou Guan Yu with 11, Tsunoda with 10, and Logan Sargent with 8, because this counts both the Grand Prix and the sprint race. For overtakes, Hamilton, Ocon, and Piastri all tied with 10. Zhou Guan Yu had 9, and then Gasly and Hulkenberg had 8. And for the fastest pit stop, Red Bull was knocked off his perch a little bit here. Ferrari with 10, Red Bull with 5, and McLaren with 3. I saw on X earlier tonight, Rob, F1 Fantasy Hub, saying that Red Bull has taken 100 of the last 108 fastest pit stop points. So that was phenomenal. And if you are on X, you can follow me over there at Euan FPL. I've been tweeting out a bunch of F1 fantasy stuff today, just kind of covering the Miami race, looking ahead to Imola. So we'll definitely get to that sooner rather than later. For the optimal teams here, so Red Bull, Ferrari, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Zhou Guan Yu, Gasly, and Hulkenberg would have gotten you a cool 315 points with an 111.1 budget. If you went with Norris, Red Bull, and Ferrari, which I did end up doing myself, if you followed me on X at UNFPL. So I had Red Bull and Ferrari and Norris. And the best team for that would have been Red Bull, Ferrari, Norris, Tsunoda, Zhou Guan Yu, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly. If you went Perez, Red Bull, and Ferrari, that was Red Bull, Ferrari, Perez, Tsunoda, Zhou Guan Yu, Ricciardo, and Gasly for 292 points. The Norris lineup was 280 points, or 288 points. And then Leclerc, Red Bull, and Ferrari here, 304 points with the same 4 back markers: Tsunoda, Zhou Guan Yu, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly. So if you dodged the DNFs, you were in great shape after the Miami Grand Prix race. As for me, it took about a 2,000 place red arrow, which is a lot better than I was thinking, with so many limitless chips getting played this weekend. And I went a little bit rogue, kind of going on the McLaren as soon as they got the upgrades. So it works out there. The only bummer was Lando's DNF in the sprint on Saturday, but made up for it in the race on Sunday, because the Eagle has Landoed. I think I've used that title 2 or 3 times now, but the guy keeps getting driver of the day. So I guess I have to come up with some fresh content headlines for Lando Norris here. But back-to-back driver of the day awards for the Brit. It's his first win in Formula One, 110 starts. It was 3rd podium in the last 4 races. Only he and Max Verstappen can claim that. Total on the weekend, 25 fantasy points. The sprint, he got -20 because of his DNF, but in the Grand Prix, he got 39. Positions gained, he had 4. Overtakes 0. That Grand Prix does include his Driver of the Day award, which, yeah, back to back for Lando. The popularity continues. Randomly, Valtteri Bottas was in second with 12%. Not really sure where that came from. Pretty sure even Martin Brundle commented on that during the race. He's like, 12% for Valtteri. Where did that come from? I don't know. Just Valtteri's popular guy. Didn't have a great weekend in F1 Fantasy, but he is beloved by most of the grid. Big things have been happening in the chips area of the game over the last two races. So a lot of us probably played our limitless chip either in China or Miami over these last two races. So I did this after the Chinese Grand Prix, and this is how it kind of came out. So I've got on the screen here limitless, no chips with max, and no chips without max. So that's my team on the right there, which was Lando, Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, and Alexander Albon. With Red Bull and Ferrari, got a cool 258 points there. I went with Magnussen because after the sprint shootout, he was talking about how he kind of made a mistake and how the car had good pace. And I kind of like that kind of angle. It went a little bit different than Hulkenberg. Also, Magnussen has risen 0.5 every race this season. So I kind of hopped on there. And I'm immediately jumping off for Imola because that guy is like a bull in like a China shop kind of thing, just all over the place, wrecking things left and right, using kind of his car as a weapon in order to get Haas a bunch of points, which is effective, but I'm not sure. He seems like he's bound for a race ban soon. So I want to get off that train sooner rather than later. So the no chips without max lineup, that was me. That was 258 points. The limitless chip, the kind of template that everybody went with was Max with the two times, Sergio, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris with Red Bull and Ferrari. That got you 358 total points. So a massive score in Miami. And then no chips with Max. This is the F1 Fantasy Tools team, actually. 283 points. Max Verstappen two times, Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hulkenberg, Logan Sargent, and Valtteri Bottas. I could not afford to get to that lineup. That is a fantastic lineup there. If I was going to go with a max lineup, I would have had to go with Valtteri Bottas, Logan Sargent, Alexander Albon, and Zhou Guanyu. It may have balanced out to be better. I actually haven't checked that yet, but with Logan Sargent's DNF, I was just too risky. Didn't really love what I was seeing in the data from Williams. So that's why I ended up going with Lando Norris, because I kind of believed in the McLaren. Their upgrades last year were very successful. So jumped on that train, and hopefully I am one transfer ahead of the rest of F1 fantasy managers when it comes to bringing in some McLaren assets. Let me know, were you brave enough, bold enough to kind of bring in the papaya for the Miami Grand Prix? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your lineup, what you're thinking ahead of Imola in a couple of weeks. Gladly answer any questions below, or hit me up on X at EuanFPL. King of the chips, like I was saying, chips have been the kind of main topic of conversation in the F1 fantasy community over the last two races. It's been a very busy time period with, I mean, if you didn't use it in China, you're pretty much setting yourself up to use it in Miami. So how did it all shake out? I went back. This math is not exact, so forgive me if it's a little bit different here. So I have the three strategies laid out here. So China, you used the limitless. In Miami, you didn't use a chip. In China, you didn't use a chip. And in Miami, you used your limitless chip. And then a lot of people actually ended up using their no negative chip in China. So I did throw that in there as well. So I did those three strategies with their total points. So if you went limitless in China, no chip in Miami, it looks like you came out with about 714 points. If you went no chip in China and limitless in Miami, you scored a little bit less just because of Lando Norris DNF in the sprint. So you got 696 points there. And then if you went no negative in China with a limitless in Miami, it looks like you scored just a little bit more than the China limitless teams, about 719 total points. Obviously, that depends on your back markers, who DNF'd, who didn't for you in that Chinese Grand Prix, even the Miami Grand Prix. But yeah, it kind of at the end of the day, we were all within about 23, 24, 25 points of each other. So that may matter at the end of the year when we're kind of getting want to get into like the top 1K, top 500, top 5K, whatever your goal is for the 2024 F1 fantasy season. That may come back to haunt you a little bit. But right now, I think it all worked out pretty well for us, whether you used it in China or in Miami. The limitless chip was successful. The Lando Norris was a bummer with the DNF on Saturday, obviously. Even for people who had Lando Norris, like myself, I was in Cologne, Germany, having a beer, and I checked the live timing. I was like, why is Lando rooted at the bottom there? So yeah, had to have another beer after that because that was sadness. But it all worked out on Sunday as he had a fantastic race for the Papaya, their first Grand Prix win since Monza in 2021, I believe, where Lando did come second in that race. So Lando's come so close before. It was really cool to see him win a race, and it was really, really awesome to see the rest of the grid just like how happy they were for him. So he's a very popular guy on the like in the track house, clubhouse, whatever, on the grid. And yeah, it was very, very cool to see. I don't usually tune in for the post race coverage, but I stuck around for the whole thing. I'm sure even if you're mostly interested in F1 fantasy for the F1 angle, but yeah, even if you're just a sports fan in general, it was really, really cool to see just the outpouring of like respect and happiness for Lando to get that first win after 110 races. Let me know in the comments below, now that Lando has won, who is the next driver that you want to see get their first race win in Formula One? Can be a sprint, can be a Grand Prix, whatever you want. I think I'm going to say Yuki. Yuki Tsunoda, want to see him get on the top side of the podium. I'm not actually sure. I doubt he even has a podium. So maybe we can start there. But I think Yuki would be the guy I'll nominate as the next guy to get or the guy I want the most to get a Grand Prix or a sprint win. I think that would be fantastic. I'm not sure if he would be as popular as Lando on the grid, but yeah, that would be my guy. So let me know in the comments below or hit me up on X at UNFPL. Uh, who you want to be the next driver to claim their maiden win in Formula One. Price changes. There was a lot going on here. We actually got some big swings for the first time since Australia. Yuki Tsunoda was the first driver to go up 1 million. So huge by him, but he's actually still in the bottom 10 of value. So here are the top 10 drivers, what their price will be for Italy and what their price change ahead or was after Miami. So Verstappen is now going to be 30.2. He went up 0.1. Lando Norris is 24.4. He went up 0.3. Actually, Lando, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz all went up 0.3. They are all above 20 million now in the game. So edging closer and closer to that 25 million kind of tier bracket where you don't go up as much. That's why I jumped on Lando as well. I was kind of, if he has a banger weekend, if he kind of goes out there and puts it all together, he could jump up quite a lot. So zero point 0.3, he's only 0.6 away. So we may only have Lando for a couple more weeks as a fantastic F1 fantasy asset. So that's definitely something to think about ahead of Imola. Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, they've got a little bit to go as well. Piastri, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso all went up 0.1. So Piastri's at 20 million, Russell's 19.2, Hamilton's 19.1, and Alonso's at 16.6. Lance Stroll, after his DNF, he went down 0.2, so he's back down to 12.8. As you can see here on the next 10, so Ocon and Tsunoda, Ocon went up 0.5, so he's up to 9.5 ahead of Imola. Tsunoda went up 1 million, so he's jumped up 9.4. He's gotten ahead of his teammate again, Daniel Ricciardo, who's at 9.3 after a 0.5 increase. K-Mag, after kind of bulldozing his way around the Hard Rock Stadium area, went down 0.1. Gasly, Hulkenberg, Albon, Zhou Guanyu, and Valtteri Bottas all went up 500,000 as well. So Gasly's 8.3, Hulkenberg 8.1, Albon 8.0, Zhou 7.6, Bottas 6.7, And Logan Sargent went down 0.2 after his DNF on Sunday. He's down to 6.1 ahead of Imola. Constructors here, I pointed this out on Twitter this morning, but Aston Martin fell 0.5. So they are now 14.6 million, and they have dropped back down into the lowest tier of the budget. So they can actually gain a lot more budget in Imola if they have a good race. And it does sound like they're bringing upgrades. So definitely something to watch on Fridays, free practices. They've got FP1, FP2, and then F1.com will release their practice debrief. So we'll see what the data says about the Aston Martin upgrades there. See if they can kind of become an option again in F1 fantasy. Although last season they brought upgrades and I'm pretty sure they got worse. The great thing about Imola is, or maybe it's not the great thing, but the interesting thing about Imola is that we actually haven't raced there for 2 years, because last year it was canceled due to the horrific flooding that was going on there. So they canceled the race during the week leading up to it. They canceled it. Probably waited a little bit too long, but it did get canceled eventually. So we've only seen the cars in their current state once here in 2022. There was a sprint race that weekend. And from what I can remember, it was pretty tricky to overtake. I said on X this morning that Imola averaged 1.1 overtake points per driver in 2022, and that was the third lowest in the 2022 season. And in 2023 and 2024, no track has averaged below 1.8 overtake points per race. So Imola is going to be tricky for overtaking. I specifically remember Lewis Hamilton getting stuck behind Pierre Gasly in an AlphaTauri for about 25 laps, just could not break out of the DRS train. So we will see how that is going to kind of go in that Imola Grand Prix. However, Pirelli has come out and said that they will be running the 3 softest tires compounds ahead of that race. So the C3, C4, C5. And that's actually going to be the tire compounds ahead of Imola, Monaco, and Canada. So definitely need to watch out for that, see how that goes along. That was the compounds for Australia, where Ferrari was quite good. If you remember, Carlos Sainz took the win there, and McLaren was also quite good in that Grand Prix as well. Getting back to the constructor price changes here, kind of all over the place a little bit, but Red Bull went up 0.1, McLaren went up 0.1. So Red Bull's 28.7, McLaren's 24.2, Ferrari went up 0.3, Mercedes went up 0.1, Aston Martin went down 0.5. Then Visa Cash App RB, Alpine, Haas, and Sauber all went up 0.5 again. Williams went down 0.1. So RB and Alpine are 8.9. Haas is 8.7. But I think the lowest I would be willing to go for Imola is Aston Martin if the data looks promising here. F1 Fantasy Pole Position League update. So if you were in the league before, it was called the Backup Fantasy Sports League. It is now called the F1 Fantasy Pole Position. So if you see that on your F1 Fantasy app, same league, no big deal. Just kind of changed it to match the podcast and the YouTube channel kind of branding thing there. So league updates here. So season top 5. So the Jays is over here at number 1 with 1,722 points. Then Seats for Signs is 1693. Middle Pack is 1673. Ricard Don't and Leapers 1 are tied for 4th at 1,666 points. So great job by y'all. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching the video. Give it a like. Always love the support there. And then for Miami top 5, 98 teams used the Limitless chip, or 98 teams got the same Limitless result, 358 points, with Max Verstappen as their 2 times, Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Red Bull Racing, and Ferrari as the constructors. So great job by those 98 teams. I think in China, there was about 110 of us that used Limitless and got the 456 points or whatever that was. So phenomenal chip usage this early on in the season. Let me know in the comments below if you haven't used your Limitless chip or what your plan is for future chips. I've got 4 chips remaining this season, as I did use the no negative in Australia that saved me some room from a Max Verstappen DNF. So that was quite handy. But yes, let me know what your chips are for the remainder of the season. So let's get into some early team selection thoughts here ahead of the Imola Grand Prix. This is a squad right now. Lando Norris with the two times, Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, Alexander Albon, 2.3 in the bank. I think my total cost cap is, I just did this a couple hours ago and I already can't remember it. What are we looking at here? 109.9 million. So really not that much. Let me know in the comments below how much budget you have. I'm sure it's far more than me. I know there's a ton of people doing very, very well that watch these episodes. So give yourself a shout out in the comments below and give the video a like while you're at it. So yes, let's get back to this. So I had Lando, K-Mag was here, Yuki was here, Bottas and Alexander Albon were also in here. So let's sort this by value. I really do think that Kevin Magnussen is going to get a race ban quite soon. So I want to get rid of him out of my team as soon as possible. I haven't really thought about rolling transfers or anything like that. With the next 4 races coming up, all just being like regular race weekends, we don't really have to worry about the Max Verstappen build too much. Uh, there is a chance, obviously. I mean, if you go with Max, you're playing kind of back marker roulette, which I guess we all are to some degree. However, I just feel like there's still potential to build budget over these next few races, maybe towards the second half of the season. I mean, once we get to Austria, that'll be the 11th race of the season, almost halfway through. I totally understand that people will want to start getting those points, moving up the overall rankings or in their mini leagues, that kind of thing. But I do think this is an opportunity over the next 3-4 races to keep building budget. And that's kind of where I'm going to be focusing my transfers. So, but like I said, I do not trust Kevin Magnussen after experience having one weekend with him. That was more than enough. Thank you for no memories, Kevin Magnussen. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Yes, we are going to get you out of my team. So that would be quite easy move to get down to Nico Hulkenberg. He's been fantastic this season. I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't just go with that in Miami as well. But, you know, you live and you learn. So I won't make that mistake again. So Nico Hulkenberg here would be quite easy. And then this could get me away from either of Williams or Sauber. That would mean I can kind of get off one of these weaker teams, which would be the benefit of not running Max, obviously. I don't even think I can get to Max in 2 moves, but we'll get there in a little bit. So Alexander Albon, Valtteri Bottas here. So if I take out Bottas, I've got 9.5 million. Kind of get my pick of the back markers. Obviously, I can't get up to Lance, which is a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, Esteban Ocon, Alpine's improving each and every race. I know it's kind of funny to like say how slow they are, but got points. Yeah, they're improving. They got more points now than Williams, Kick Sauber. Like, yeah, the results speak for themselves. They've got a pretty strong driver lineup in Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. They're professionals. They're gonna figure out how to make this work, despite them maybe being on different teams in for the 2025 season, but they're not going to give up that easily. So I could get rid of Bottas and move anywhere among the back markers. But if we go here, the thing would be, I think I'm going to be just short of this. Yeah, 12.8. Even if I could go from Yuki to Stroll, that would maybe be in my thoughts. But since I cannot, will not be doing that. Williams still not looking all that great, but Imola, tough track to overtake. So could Alexander Albon's defensive prowess come into the fold here if he has a good qualifying, looks good in the sims? It could be something to think about here as well. He's currently at 8 million, so I can't really move a lot there either. So my transfers will probably be Kevin Magnussen out for Nico Hulkenberg and then get rid of Valtteri Bottas for one of these stronger assets. I mean, Ricardo had a good sprint, but it didn't look all that great on Sunday or in qualifying. So yeah, a little bit hesitant to go there, but do I want to go on an Alpine? Ocon has risen quite a lot here. He's had some pretty strong results lately, 12 points, 11 points. Just in general, hasn't had a terrible race yet. Seems to be getting the best out of that car. Pierre Gasly here, 13, 15. So It's all trending in the right direction for Alpine. So it might be a good opportunity to get a little bit different here. I mean, let's check out their ownership. As you see, like Esteban Ocon, not owned by a lot of people at all. Pierre Gasly's probably in there from a lot of the early season teams, but yeah, yeah, I mean, even Sergio's all the way down here still, so that's kind of wild. But yeah, so that would maybe be my early thoughts ahead of keeping Lando Norris, depending on what we can see in the upgrades. With it sounds like Ferrari, Red Bull, and Aston Martin will be bringing some serious upgrades to Imola. Especially Ferrari. That's kind of their home race, or one of their two home races that they have. So they'll definitely want to bring it on for the Tifosi, kind of show out at their Italian race, especially since they missed that race last year because of the flooding. So, but I don't even think I can get to a Max Verstappen build in a couple of transfers here. So if I put K-Mag back, let me know if you are running a Max Verstappen build and if you are enjoying it or not so much. So yeah, look, right here, 3.2. I'm way short. I'm 3 billion short of getting to Logan Sargent. So if I go with Max, I'd have to go Logan, Valtteri, 8.4. So I've gained enough budget where I don't have to run all 4 back markers with Max Verstappen. So that's a little bit of a positive after Miami, because beforehand I was having to run both Saubers and Williams. So that's a little bit of a positive there. But this is far too risky. I mean, this guy might not even be there if the reports are or rumors are slight to be believed. It sounds like Williams have applied on behalf of Kimi Antonelli for his super license to be instated. That he's only 17. You're supposed to be 18 before that. However, I was listening to the Missed Apex podcast earlier, and Christina Lee Mays said that you actually have to have a super license to even compete in FP1s and like free practices and stuff. So it could just be that. It may not be like Antonelli is coming in for Imola. And I think James Vowles and Toto Wolff have both come out over the weekend and said that Antonelli will not be driving that quickly. However, that doesn't mean that he won't be driving it all this season. So yeah, I think if we can stay away from Logan Sargent as much as possible, I know this was by far his worst performance of the season, and it hasn't been all that bad. I mean, he has positive points on the year, so that's already better than what was happening in the 2023 F1 fantasy season, but it does feel like time is running out for the American driver. So I was going to be looking to avoid him, and that's probably why I will be sticking with the Lando Norris build as of right now on my early team thoughts ahead of the Imola Grand Prix. So we return to Imola for the first time in a couple of years here. We get to see how the track looks, how it's going to kind of play out with F1. I mean, all these teams have developed, but here is the schedule. So in 2022, they had a sprint. This year, just a regular Grand Prix, 3 practices with qualifying and the Grand Prix on Sunday. So it all kicks off at 1:30 at Italy time with practice 1, which is going to be 12:30 UK time and 7:30 in the morning US Eastern. Get all day of F1. Practice 3 on Saturday morning is at 12:30 local, 6:30 Eastern, 11:30 UK time. And then the thing that we care about as F1 fantasy managers, qualifying 4 p.m. local time, 3 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. US Eastern. Fun fact, I will actually be in that area during the race. I will not be attending. I'm on vacation going through Italy, which is going to be phenomenal. Looking forward to that quite a bit. But I'm definitely going to stop by the track and kind of just take a peek, see if anyone's around. Yeah, just visiting the east coast of Italy during that race week. So I will take some pics, post them on X at UNFPL. So make sure to check those out. Maybe I will do like a YouTube short or a TikTok or something from the track just to kind of commemorate being that close to an F1 race. And then, yeah, the Grand Prix Sunday, 3 p.m. local time, 2 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. US Eastern. Upcoming schedule here. So we've got back-to-back races, Imola and Monaco. in a couple of weeks. So rest up this weekend, enjoy the time off because you're going to need to have your F1 fantasy thinking caps on for a couple of weekends in a row, and then Canada, June 7th through the 9th. So get a couple of weeks break after Monaco, and then Canada, and it's the full-on European swing for the remainder of the season. Don't forget to join the F1 Fantasy Pole Position F1 Fantasy League, which is with the league code P3DA4NLOX08. Definitely check that out. Keep joining us. I think we're about 1.5 thousand. So, yeah, lots of people doing very well in that league. Keep them coming. Keep joining throughout the season. It'll be a great way to kind of battle with each other. Let me know where you are in the league if you are part of it. And yeah, ask me about any transfers as we look ahead to Imola with the 7th race of the season. It was a crazy day, crazy night. I was up until about 12 o'clock watching that Grand Prix. And then cards on the table, I tried to record this video at about 7 o'clock this morning, got halfway through, and in my lack of sleep, deliriousness, realized that I had not hit record for the first 15 minutes of this. So I'm doing this after work now at about 8 p.m. Germany time, but hopefully it all came out all right. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I've kind of changed the format, changed the colors on the YouTube side. So let me know if it's still easy to read. Definitely open to any feedback. And on the podcast side, let me know if I'm not really clarifying my points all that well, because it is a little bit harder with the YouTube channel. It's easier to see what I'm talking about. So I hope I'm getting that across to y'all on the audio side. We have 2 weeks until Imola. There will be a race preview episode coming out over the weekend. But once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Good luck with all your F1 fantasy prep. Hopefully you guys did well in Miami, and I will talk to you next time.